Hey everybody, we're live. Great Wednesday to you, Wednesday, December 10th. And I'd like to introduce my new friend. I should, when do you go from becoming new to friend to old friend? Well, I think we're friends. Uh yeah. Is it when
I
you
think we're
yeah, I know we're friends, but I'm saying does it happen? Is it like a period or something like that? I don't know. But at any rate, this is the wonderful Maura Keller, who technically is my neighbor here in Georgia. And she and I were brought to meet by a dear person whose friendship and opinion I honor, and that is Ashley Gaylord, who I met in turn at my friend Jason Thompson's First Friday coffee. He's running for reelection
yeah.
of Fayette County judge, and so that's how we came together. And it turned out that Mara ran for the District 3 U.S. Congress seat against this guy named Brian Jack. Um, and Brian Jack won. And now, guess what, folks? She's poised to challenge Brian Jack again uh, for the same seat. And I have jumped in to assist, and I want you to hear my friend's story. Maura, welcome.
Thank you very, very much. So, um, you know, running for Congress, let alone being involved in politics, that was not on my agenda, on my bingo card. It was something that I felt I had to do with everything that was going on in today's environment. So, I am a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel. I did 26 years. And I joined when I was 17 years old. I'm originally from Massachusetts, born and raised, but I've lived here in Georgia for about 30 years. And this is where I raised was could raise a lot of my family. um, but having done my time in the military, I then did about 12 years as an independent contractor. And a lot of what I was doing was I was considered a subject matter expert in the area of personnel for the military. So I worked on projects and studies for the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness at the Pentagon, and did projects for the Chief of the Army Reserve. When and then got another degree. This time I became a nuclear medicine technologist, and I worked at a lot of the various hospitals, Emory and Piedmont. But then I ended up at the VA, and that's where my whole story began. Is uh, taking care of my soldiers or taking care of my veterans was very, very important. And I felt that when I see an issue, being a leader from the military, when you see an issue, you come up with solutions. And I could not get any of the solutions done at the VA. And it was very, very frustrating. And so that was when I decided, you know what, I'm gonna run for Congress. So this is one of the ways that I can make a difference. I'm gonna become part of the fight, and that's what I did. I quit my job at the VA and ran for Congress. So that was how I all started.
What was the aha moment where what happened that made you well, for want of a better term, or maybe given your military background, it's appropriate pull the trigger, and say, I believe that I can represent District 3 better than anyone else in Congress, which is, a heck of an undertaking. But you did it, and you're poised to do it again. What was the aha moment the first time where you said, you know what, I'm just going to go and do it?
It was, I mean, it's something you just don't wake up and say, I'm going to run for Congress. You might say it, but then it's like, I can't do this. I don't have the experience. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have a degree in um, like a lot of them are political science background, and but then it's like it doesn't matter. The bottom line is this: you're supposed to be a public servant. You're supposed to represent the people. And I felt like everything that I did in the military was to take care and to listen. Everything is mission driven. And like from the VA, the aha moment that I had was I had a patient who was paraplegic, and I was getting ready to do a study because I was in nuclear medicine, and I was getting ready to do a study, and I was moving him from the wheelchair to my table. And the wife says, "Oh, let me stabilize the chair before you get him up." And I said, "Well, we'll just put the brakes on." And she said, "Well, the brakes don't work." I'm like, "What do you mean what do you mean the brakes don't work?" She goes, "Because they're plastic and they break all the time, and that we're constantly having to get replacement parts." And I thought, that is 100% unacceptable. And so that was like a start of it. And then it was, I considered myself, when I wasn't working on patients, I would walk around the VA hospital. And so I considered myself the secret shopper of the VA. And I would see things. And that would be, some of the things that I would bring to the leadership of the VA. And I just couldn't get some of that changed or fixed. And so, like I say, that was my aha moment. Like I say, you also go through, can I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Can I do it? And then you just wake up and saying, I can. I put my whole military career through a quick kaleidoscope, and I saw everything that I accomplished in the military. And I'm like, I can take those same skills and do the same thing and represent the folks of this district. What, as a female coming in the military, I came in 1978. And so females were not mentored. The men were. And I started off as enlisted. And then when I got my commission, the men were always told, these are the positions that you want. These are the schools you got to go to. But I wasn't necessarily afforded that. And it was my Vietnam veterans that took me under their wing. And they gave me 2 bits of information. And this has been my North Star. And this is what made me say I can do it. And they said, never forget where you came from. And always remember that the decisions you make or don't make are going to affect that soldier in the field. And in my 26 years, I've always carried that with me. I carried that with me at the VA. And I feel like I can carry that right into this district.
And so, being in Georgia, as someone who served our country, thank you for serving our country, by the way, it seems to give you a unique place from which to run for Congress, because you're really representing a large number of people who've come to Georgia via the military route, right? And they've established roots and become valuable parts of the community, right?
Mm-hmm. Out of our entire district, we do have a population of military, and we got just a lot of transplants from all over the United States. But then we got those folks that have lived here, been born and raised, for generations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to work with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I do enjoy it. I've spent from last year, I've spent a lot of time on the road, knocking on doors, but meeting with people. And I just love listening to their issues, and then sitting down and saying, okay, now what do we do? How do we fix this? And what I see myself doing a little differently is everybody has, I hate to say this saying because it sounds so cliche, but everybody does have a seat at the table. Everybody does have a voice. And that's when I feel like it's so collaborative, when we can all sit down and say, okay, explain it to me so I can understand the way you see it. And then I try to explain the way I see it, or other people like me see it. And for us to be able to come together, that's great. Because I really think the issues are just so minuscule for really what divide us. So much we all are in agreement with.
On that note, I've always wanted to ask people who run, and it's been a while, but I'll ask, why are you a Democrat? I mean, I know my reasons, But before you answer, I want to share with you a very special video I haven't played in a long time. And it comes from when I was one of the first bloggers ever credentialed to cover a Democratic or a Republican convention in history. And I decided I'd, add the vlogger's touch and do videos. And so I asked Democrats why they were a Democrat. And in this 2-minute and 39-second video, here's some responses that I think you'll find interesting. And then we can go from there, because I think it's something that we need to hear in this time of I call it occasional confusion. But it is, make sure the audio here is, turn the echo cancellation off so that you can hear the video. And here it goes. This is it. Oops, I got to turn that. Yeah, that'll help if I turn it up too.
Why are you a Democrat?
Because they have their values are more similar to what mine are. They're closer to what mine are than the Republicans.
The answer is so broad that I don't even know where to begin. I'm a Democrat because I believe in equality of opportunity and community justice. Basic ideals ranging from equal rights for women, equal minorities, all the way to an equal and fair society for economically for the poor and middle classes and economic opportunity.
I was brought up in the 70s where there was a sense that you had to do the right thing. Media was better about calling politicians on that stuff, so I did a lot of that. And I'm happy that once again, it's finally beginning to realize that we're all in this together. We are not different.
For me, I think one of the things over the past 6 years is I think the shift with the Republican Party and the way that it's going and the way it's treating America, basically. I just became involved in this process a year ago, and I think it's really important for us to get involved.
For me, it's you got two choices practically. I mean, if you want to be practical, you got two choices. I think the best part is
No doubt about that.
I actually moved to this country with my family as a young child from Great Britain. My parents were always supportive of labor. It was very interesting as I was growing up to associate myself with Democrats, and as I became old enough to really understand what that meant, it just seemed more and more natural. I'm very happy that the country is seeming to swing back in that direction again now.
I'm simply born a Democrat, and then beyond that, it's just the belief that all the things, all the sort of privileges I was born with are not things I inherently deserve, and that no matter where you are and what situation you should be able to achieve that if you work hard.
Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going, we better stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going, we better stop now. What's that sound? Everybody look what's going, we better stop. Children, what's that sound?
Hope you enjoy that, Maura.
Yeah.
Why are you a Democrat?
I'm trying to for so long. You had that. I'm get that echo again.
Oh, because of the, you know what? My fault, unfortunately, because of the echo cancellation. I forgot to turn it on again. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Drain damage.
For me, I believe in equality. I believe in equity. I believe that we should be able to take roadblocks out of people's way, so people can live, can thrive. For what I'm seeing from the other side, it's like there's more roadblocks. We want the haves and the have-nots, and I'm not about that. I'm not saying you give people free handout. I don't say you throw away money. I am very conservative when it comes to finances. Just like in the military, you're just not given free money. You're given. You want to make sure you're paying for the right things. I want to be a good steward of people's money, and I just want to see people. Life's hard, life's short, and we shouldn't have to make it harder for people. And I just feel like the Democrats kind of know that and figured that out. And I think that's what I see more of us trying to push for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And I did that because I played that because I just saw the president talk, and he was talking about a number of things. I don't want to prolong that, but what I was thinking about was the fact that I don't believe people should feel like they don't belong in America. And the beauty of this country is to be able to figure out your place in it and be who you are authentically, comfortably, and then go from there. Sometimes your family looks different because of the road you take, but they do really become your family, even if they may not look like they're your family, right? But at that point, when that video, what inspired me was the fact that we were poised to elect America's first African American Democratic representative for president. Someone I got behind early on with 2006. And it was very powerful for me, for mutual new friend of mine, Tony West, who later became a assistant attorney general, and a number of us. And I when I look back on the Obama years, I think of a photograph in Black Enterprise of a number of people who worked for Barack, all African American, who had different titles. The point being, though, was that they all worked in the White House. And for the first time, people like myself actually knew people who worked in the White House, and directly. And that was unheard of. I mean, maybe you had somebody parenthetically, but for a large segment of the population to have direct connections with people in the White House who were Black was unprecedented. And it did a lot for our country in terms of making people who don't look like me or you even understand that they too could be a part of this wonderful thing we call the United States of America. And at this particular time, for some to want to take that away, they don't understand. They don't understand how beautiful it is to experience the true feeling of freedom of being yourself and being loved for who you are and loving people for who they are. And that's why I play. That's what it means to be a Democrat to me.
I totally agree with what you just said. Everybody has a place, but we're trying to pigeonhole people, but we're only going to pigeonhole people in certain blocks. And if you don't go in those blocks, you don't belong.
Yeah.
And that's not the way I see it. And the same thing in the military. We came from all over the United States and territories. We came from all types of backgrounds, those that were impoverished to those that came from very well-to-do families, to those that came from, big families to single parents. We had all types of culture and ideologies, and we worked together, and we were a very tight-knit group. That if you really look at it, it's really one huge family because you all have to trust each other. And I don't see that anymore. I mean, yeah.
No, and that we have to get that back. And I was thinking that about just the beauty of that there is in unifying, particularly at a convention. But even when you're out on the campaign trail, like people should be on the campaign trail for yourself and running, but then taking that energy and building that energy, and then propelling you into Congress. On where are you in your campaign now, and how do you envision building it, and how can we help?
Well, you can go to my website, maurakeller.com. And of course, we can use all the donations that we can get, because we don't have PAC money. We don't have lobbyist money. We have those $5 that will come in every single month. And it's those low dollar donors that are fueling this entire campaign. So, and also on my website, you can sign up to volunteer. So I'll be sending out my newsletter shortly. So you'll get to see exactly what I'm doing, where I'm going, and what support that I need. For instance, putting together small gatherings, small meet and greets would be extremely helpful. It allows me to get more exposure into the communities and to see more people. Being one person, you can only go so far, but having an army behind you can really spread the word. We try to leverage anybody that will help us in social media, because we don't get the exposure. We don't get, like for me in Atlanta, I'm not getting the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to cover this race. I don't get local newspapers necessarily covering. And, even though if they cover my opponent, they're supposed to at some point give us equal time. It just doesn't have to be in a timely manner. And so I'm leveraging every bit of social media that I can so people get to know who I am. I don't have PACs or super PACs that are going to be sending out these mailing, those big postcards. I think it was February. My opponent already had a PAC sending out these oversized mailers to people in the district, talking about how the former administration had messed them up in their Medicare, and which was totally untrue. But he's got that type of power behind him. And we don't. We have the grassroots. We have the people that are going to be knocking on doors and doing their own social media posts so they can reach their families and friends. So
how do you position yourself? And this is an interesting state. And it's at an interesting time. And I asked, when I say, how do you position yourself? I mean, what is that number one issue or issues that people should know you are most focused on and most care about?
Wow. So there's so many. And the reason is we have 15 counties. So as I'm knocking on doors, I'm hearing things that are very specific to certain counties, but then I can find things that are very common throughout. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm not focused on the really local issues that I could help and do something when I'm in Congress. Well, I hate to say affordability because we've been hearing that in the news all the time, but that was what was told to me in 2024. And that was some of the things that I was running on. We don't have affordable housing. We had so many equity firms come in and buy whatever inventory there was out there, or to buy rentals and then jack the price up because they know somebody's going to pay that price. Mm-hmm. So we had people requesting workforce housing, meaning those teachers and first responders, the police, the fire, people who worked at the hospital. They would love to be able to live in the community that they work in, but they can't. There is nothing there affordable for them. My seniors, they were telling me, I want to downsize, but I can't because A, there's no place to go. I can't afford the mortgage or the rent that they want to charge me. So I have to stay where I'm at. So everything dealing with housing was a big thing. And of course, people would talk about the groceries, but housing was number one. The second one was healthcare. We talk about, especially women, out of my 15 counties, 6 of them don't have any OBGYN.
What?
And the reason, is because
Whoa.
we have the heartbeat bill, and we have a lot of OBGYNs that don't want to set up practice because they don't want to go to jail, lose their license, or pay hefty fines if they feel like they have to treat women if they're under some type of an emergency during their, for reproductive care. If they say the woman's life is in danger and I need to create, do an abortion, you got people out here that will sue that doctor to say there could have been something else you could have done. And so we don't have a lot that want to do that here in Georgia. And we also have the ones that need to do their internships. They don't want to do their internships here. So healthcare was one. Do you know? I mean, we still 16 years later, we're still at $7.25 for minimum wage.
Wow.
People keep on saying, I can't make my ends meet on $7.25. Even if it's $10, they still can't raise a family on $10 an hour. I mean, have you looked at daycare? My daughter, she lives in Virginia, and she was telling me for two grandkids, over $2,000. I looked at her like she had lost her mind. But yeah, childcare is just astronomical. And so people are trying to pick and choose what they can do. And then,
can I add something to that real quick?
Yeah, please.
Actually, just want to add, organizations like Kroger's here don't get that those payments, those penny ante per hour payments they make. I understand that running a business myself, you can only pay people so much because you have what you have to pay. I get that. But when you have the means to pay, you shouldn't get upset when those same people you're going after for a pittance and paying them pittance quit your job after just a few weeks because, well, a viral video they made took off, or they established stardom online. And that's really a big reason why a lot of people, and we can then discuss cryptocurrency when people were doing it and knew how to do it, and it was, doable. Now, because of the economy, it's in a different direction, but it can always come back. My point is, there are a lot of alternatives, and people have created those alternatives and sought them out because of those ungodly small payments. And so you go to a place like Kroger, and the cashier line that you need to use, particularly if you're disabled, there's no money running it because Kroger can't find people who want to work at their small payment levels to help at those cashier areas. And that hurts all of us. So the organizations like Kroger's, they need to be incentivized to pay those better fees, but they don't want to get the subsidy. But then get this. Here's the weird thing about it, Maura. We have giant segments of our economy like the farmers who are in trouble. And then you have Republicans that say, oh, if we help the farmers, it's socialist. So then Trump turns around and gives them $12 billion, right? Because we have to understand that markets fail, and the job of government is to fix the market, not wreck the market. All right? It's not, I mean, I'm into what I call economic engineering, which rips apart political lines, because we wind up doing that a lot in America. We engineer the economy to work for you and me when it's not working. And the example that you talk about regarding the wage is a sheer example of why it's not working, and even why the International Division of Labor has torn apart the ability to charge so little to pay somebody. You got to change it. It's got to be changed.
Most definitely. And what you'll hear from a lot of the big corporations, not the mom and pops, but the big corporations, they'll say, well, if we have to increase the minimum wage, then I'm going to have to let people go, or I'm going to have to, cut people's hours. And we know that is just so untrue. Last year alone, we had over 20 states increase the minimum wage from 15 to 17, and some, maybe a few dollars more. Those businesses are not going out of business. We need to figure out what can we do for the mom and pops. Again, it's when we sit down and we talk and we figure out, if we do this, then what would happen? And if you tell me all those issues, now I can add these issues to figure out, okay, how do we fix that? How do we go around it? How do we lessen those issues or make it better? One of the things I didn't tell you is, in the military, I was a strategic analyst. So data means something. And one thing about me is, when I analyze something, is I don't take it face value. You have to look behind it. You have to look beside it, because every time you look at it from a different angle, it gives you a whole different bit of information. And I fear that right now our Congress doesn't have that capability. They look at something face on and they go ahead and make a decision. And it doesn't seem to matter who it affects. So when we talk about the pay, in my district alone, I've got counties that in Georgia, what do we have? I think it's average is 14% for at or below the poverty level. I have them at 18 to 24%.
Wow.
Poverty at or below the poverty level. That's huge.
Can you say that again, please?
I have people in the districts. We have pockets, and that pocket is at 18 to 24% at or below the poverty level. And so how do we fix this? So I try to look, when I drive around these rural areas and I see so many overgrown areas where businesses came and went and nothing ever came back. Instead, it's all old and decrepit. And, and you have, undesirables that will be around the area for crime. But we need to figure out, how can we bring some life, some growth, without affecting some of our rural beauty that my district definitely has. And what the other thing that I wanted to mention about the rural, I've been going around right now, and a couple of times a week, I am at some meeting dealing with data centers that are popping up throughout my county. So out of my 15, I have this Henry County, Douglas. We already know in Fayette, we have QTS. We have one that's for Lamar County, Coweta. That's a big one you're going to be hearing in the news all the time. You have Hogansville. Right there is 6. We have all these data centers that are coming in, and they're buying up all our rural areas, farmland, because it's cheap. They're not looking at putting these in heavy industrial areas. They're looking at basically in your backyard. And the thing with the current administration is they are kind of bypassing all the rules and regulations that are in place to say, should we put one here? We're not doing the environmental study, so we don't know what it's going to do to your health or the air or whatever.
Oh, how about the price? How about the energy prices?
Okay, absolutely. So I've been going around, going to various city council meetings. I've been listening to the people of the district that are trying to ask questions, and we bring in the subject matter experts. So it's not that we're, against any, against data centers, because we're going to need them. We just don't need them in our backyards. We don't need them to come into our areas and take so much from us, meaning they're taking your water. And the water is not going back to where they took it from. They're not necessarily making your environment better. They're not bringing jobs. So there's a lot of negatives, and we need to be in the power seat. And we need to tell them, this is what we want. If you want to be in our backyard, this is what we demand. But that's not happening right now, because we've got so many of those NDAs that are being signed. And so we can't talk about, or the city councils or whatever can't talk about certain things. They can't tell you a lot, like how much power is going to be used or how much water is going to be used. How can people make a decision, informed decision as to, yes, I want that in my backyard?
Hey, let me
So right
ask
now
you.
that is uh-huh.
Yeah, you mentioned the water issue, and it occurred to me. I'm a big fan of Walt Disney World, and not in the standard sense of visiting it, although I'd love to visit. I haven't been since 1984, so I'm way overdue for a trip to Disney World. But Disney World uh, uh, got me interested in city planning, not because I visited it, but because I discovered, I learned about it in a book called The Art of Walt Disney. And in that book, in the area called Lessons of the Parks, was also a mention of the fact that the plan for housing at Disney World, because Disney World is actually 43 square miles in size, it's a city state, um, was to have fuel cells. Now, fuel cells to produce their own energy house per house, but also because they had a byproduct, drinking water. So, my point is, why don't we have policies or a way of funneling policies through a tech lens? I mean, if because today our technologies are so more farther advanced than they were in the 60s, but my sense is that too often we have these, I call them Salem witch trial discussions, right? And you being with your background, I think would really be uh, a fan of this approach, but because it allows us to really combine the data and then the engineering expertise that people have, and just ideas to be able to figure out an alternative solution. I think there's a commercial running around that says problems, they're everywhere, and we solve them, something like that. But I feel like this is that situation, and you're running for office where that could be a great factor yet again, and people coming up with creative and innovative problems and employing technology to take us in places we didn't think we could go.
I totally agree. If there's something that we can bring into our district that is going to be good for the people, and it has to be good for the people. And I just see too many promises, but no deliveries. Um, I don't see a lot of transparency because when you look at who owns these data centers, because some of them are for crypto only.
Hmm.
You look at the Googles, the Meta, the high, those type of tech bros that are coming in, and they are just building everywhere.
Palantir, look out.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Or maybe
God,
I should say, in honor of the CEO, look out because I'm coming.
oh yeah, yeah. That's one of the supporters of my opponent.
Yeah. Oh wow. Oh my goodness, you're kidding me. Brian Jack,
No.
right?
Mhm.
Wow. Tell us about Brian Jack.
He didn't live here. He may have been born here, but he doesn't live here.
Elaborate on that,
Um,
please.
he lives. I'd had to go. I think it was Virginia, is where he was living because he was with the Trump's first administration,
Mm.
and he was his aide, and he was his political director. And when this race became an open seat, Trump wanted him to run and fill this seat. So he was here. He had a primary. He had a bunch of people running against him. He won the primary, but then from there, you hardly saw him because he was too busy flying around with either Trump or JD Vance. And all he needed to do was to have his sign say Trump endorsed. And that was it. And the only thing he talked about was, we have to get rid of the immigrants. And the reason is because for every immigrant that is here, that is a Democratic vote. He was, that was pretty much what he was talking about was the immigration. Um, but you never, other than that, saw him. Then, of course, he won, And so he now lives here, but you don't see him. He has not had one town hall. He has not sent out one newsletter that we've all signed up for. People will send me messages and say, look, we have left another call. And here was something that was very interesting. The person asked him that and said, you know what, we call you about this same issue every single time. I haven't gotten a response, or the response would be just a canned letter. So it never identifies that about that specific issue that the person talked about, right? So they would get a canned letter, and then the person asked, how do we know he's getting this? And their response was, you don't. So I don't know what you say to that. When I look at what he has done, like in the news, it said, or he said, that he still feels like he is part of this current administration. Like he never left. He talks to Trump on a weekly basis. He and Trump still feel he is part of the administration. He has done one bill that which means you research it, you write it up, you introduce it. And that was the Muhammad Ali bill. But then when you pull back, because it's like, why, as a freshman congressman, why, out of anything that's going on in your district, why would you focus that you have to write a boxing bill for the Muhammad Ali boxing bill? And it just made absolutely no sense. So when I looked a couple of days later, that's when it all started piecing together that Dana White has a connection with the Saudis, how they are trying to get, in a way, into our boxing. You know how the Saudis got into live golf?
Right. So they're trying to get money into boxing. And so Brian Jack is trying to help them?
Brian Jack is saying how he's trying to make sure boxers, because it's a dying sport, how he's trying to get them the fair pay that they deserve. And I'm like, I can't believe you're spending your time doing something like this that has nothing to do with the district. But with him, I know everything has to do, because he's so tight and tied to Trump. And I knew something was going to come out, and it was 3 days later, because of Trump not too long ago is doing some type of deal in Saudi for Trump, whatever his businesses are. And that was how I found out Dana White, they want to have the fights at the White House. Dana White's now tied with the Saudis. They have their own boxing. And that was what it was. They're trying to find a way to get into our boxing.
And so Brian has no way of bringing these activities to Atlanta. There's nothing in Georgia where he's just saying, hey, I can help develop this for Georgia. Nothing?
He's just greasing the skids for them. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with Georgia. And then second thing.
Go ahead.
Well, and it was just in the news, and I have to do a little checking. But he's now looking at legislation so the Braves don't have to pay taxes on the 5 highest earners of the Atlanta Braves. I have to dig some more into that. What does that have to do with the people of the 3rd district? They're worth millions, billions, right? I got people, what did I tell you, 18 to 24% at or below the poverty level?
Yeah.
Where's your focus?
And don't have access to be able to pay taxes.
It's not on the district.
Wow. Maybe this would help shed some light on who he is. I happened to find this about the congressman, and I typed Brian Jack, 500,000 in public relations, and he filed a new financial report. This was August 27th of this year, and within it, he had holdings up to $500,000 in something called Kidron Public Affairs LLC. But I have not been able to find any website that designates that this exists. I had discovered that there were 4 different organizations that political organizations like Kevin McCarthy's, for example, that paid into Kidron. But again, that didn't equal $500,000. The company was created December 22nd of 2022, and then it ceased to exist December 11th of 2024 as a Georgia company. And yet nobody can tell me what it does, but they can tell me that there were two people who owned it. One of them was Representative Brian Jack. Now, in searching for this, I also ran across a result that was in, of all things, Belarusian language. And I thought, why would that come up that way? And even although I have no concrete, closed, final reason for it, my thought was it a type of money laundering device for him to run for office? No, hey,
I know that
somebody overseas who can then put money into this, but then it looks like, oh, Kidron Public Relations doing work for this organization, which is also Republican, which is also doing work for this organization, which is also Republican. And no one has ever checked it out. Okay?
Well, I will definitely take that under advisement, and yeah, I just know that he had access to Kevin McCarthy's donor list and other people's donor lists, and again, he had PACs and super PACs that were all behind him, between sending out mailers,
Maura,
buying prime time.
let's dig into that real quick. Okay, he had access, you say, to Kevin McCarthy's donor list. But interestingly, Kevin McCarthy also paid his public relations firm a goodly sum of money. Now, normally, don't you think that normally if Brian was getting Kevin's donor list, then Brian would be giving Kevin, not the other way around? Right? Right?
I don't know what to say.
Well, but I mean, think about it. It's Kevin McCarthy's donor list, which means, hey, it's worth some money to him. But oh, by the way, Kevin also gave Brian Jack's public relations firm 6 figures during the same period. I mean, all right, here's where I'm going with this. For anybody who wants to say, okay, where are you going with this theoretically, Zinni? Theoretically, all right? Theoretically, I believe that the secret sauce for President Trump's hold on Republicans is his ability to get money from foreign sources to the political campaign.
That one, I would say, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
There is a lot, whether it can be proven because we don't have people in the right positions anymore. But yeah, I say there's a lot of foreign influence into our system.
Yeah, I'd like to look at the bank accounts and the statements for that now defunct public relations company. What money was flowing through?
There's so much of when they talk about dark money, there is so much flowing in. And again, not in my campaign, but you have right now the Republicans going to the Supreme Court to allow more monies to come in to campaigns. And you know what? It's just so hard that we're supposed to be public servants.
Yeah.
People like you, people like me. I don't come from money. I come from, the money that I have is the money that I've earned and the money that I've saved. Everyday people should have the ability to run for political office, to do the right thing, and again, to be a public servant. And you can't unless you come from money, unless you are backed by money. When an analysis is done, now get this. This is a congressional race, 15 counties. They're saying based on what he has raised and what he has potential to raising, compare last year to this year, For me to be competitive, I need $3 million to be a competitive race. I am not going to raise $3 million. It's just not going to happen. I
I
don't
think you
know.
can. No, I can't think you can. I think you can do it.
I don't know. I
I
have to
I
read.
think you can do it. I really do. I believe you can do it.
If
I
you can
believe you
get
can do it.
if you can introduce me to people who can introduce me to people, that would be great. Because right now, again, how do you get to people? You email them, you text them, and you, of course, you call them. And I've been doing a lot of making the phone
You do
calls.
things like this, you know,
What's that?
video,
Oh,
video.
well, yeah. You see me. I try to do a lot of that. But again, it's people are getting inundated with the requests for funds, requests for monies. And so a lot of people are just swiping. They're like, I get 10 a day. When I call people, to support my campaign, they're telling me the same thing. They get these phone calls all the time. And, please call me back in 3 months and we'll see if I have money.
Mm-hmm. And
People are
see,
just trying to get by right now.
right, but see, that was why I point back to Brian Jack and what he's doing, because that baseline is true for him as well. Except, what if you had a set of companies that were short in lifespan, but such that I, as a billionaire overseas, could put some of my money into them, and yet it would never be discovered. Okay?
I,
Because no one's
I agree.
asked questions about these organizations and the interlocking between these Republican candidates in these organizations. I just found another one called, I think, Magnuson, something like that, with Brian Jackson on that. Where are these coming from? And can there be a a a better developed American friendly democratic equivalent that allows us to win elections and gain the same kind of loyalty that President Trump gained? That loyalty is fake, because I believe every Republican that is that loyal to him knows that if they jump off the wagon, if you will, that money is taken away. Or worse, look at how he's treating Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
It's yeah.
you should
I
get her
watched that
you should have her
every day.
endorse your campaign just to stick it to him.
Oh my
Why
God.
not? Hey,
They're friends. They're friends.
no, not anymore.
She supports Brian.
Oh, Brian Jack, I'll
Hmm.
bet you that's not going to last. I would, if I were you, I'd take a, I go, what's the word? I'd infiltrate that. Yeah,
Oh,
I would infiltrate that big time. Hey, what's the worst that could happen? You know,
uh, yeah, yeah.
you gain a friend, you gain an ally, you shock the blankety blank out of everybody, and then next thing you know, you got 3
Yeah,
million in your pocket, right? Ding,
yeah. That would be great.
ding,
My God.
ding, ding.
Yeah, we need to overhaul the monies 100%,
Absolutely.
because they can't, because right now they're just bought. They're bought. When I went to Congress a year ago and I was walking the hallways, I was with the National PTA, and I was just a strap hanger, just to see what it was like when you went. You were going to visit all our Congress senators. All our Congress people and our two senators, and to talk about issues that you want them to vote on when they come up. And so as we're doing that, and I'm watching the hallways, it was just bustling. And I'm like, man, who are these people? And they said, those are lobbyists.
Hmm.
That wasn't on my radar. But yeah, that's what walking around the halls of Congress all day long are all these various lobbying groups.
Yep. Yeah. Something else. Maura, next steps for the campaign. Tell my viewers.
So we'll be going full force in January, and it's just to be more involved into the communities and to have more listening sessions where people know that, hey, ask me anything. What I want to be able to do is when you bring these issues to me, some of the people last year would give me the issues, and I would always ask them, if you were in charge, what would you do? What would you like to see happen? And they would come up with some solutions. And I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. That's like a no-brainer. Why aren't we doing that? So when I would do the research, it came down to two things. It was either taking money out of somebody's pocket or it wasn't putting money in. And that was the only reason we weren't having. And I thought, we have got to fix this because we talk about the same things election cycle after election cycle. How many years have we talked about immigration? Why can't we finally put that to bed? We can, but then some side loses a talking point. Why can't we put to rest about the affordability on the healthcare? Because they own a lot of the people in our political structure. That, all the reasons why we can't have universal health care, all the reasons why we can't have Medicare or Medicaid for all, name something that people have come up with. It's going to take money out of people's pockets. We got to fix this so we can finally just move on to the other issues at hand. But these are the same things we talk about because they are our political talking points that we hope we'll be able to use to get us elected.
Yeah.
We need to stop that.
And it must be pointed out that for all of President Trump's horror show with ICE and everything, that President Obama still leads him in people deported because it was done the right way and not in this way that, where he's trying to make himself look like king.
Mm-hmm. I've been, the other thing is I'm spending time. Yesterday I spent 6 hours on a farm. I got to correct myself. On a ranch. I received some really basic to understand the difference between farms and ranch and the costs that are all ensue this for the people of the district. Because the number one industry is broiler chickens. And I've been trying to get with some farmers that raise these broiler chickens, and I can't get anybody to talk to me yet because a lot of them are all Republican. The people who own them are Republicans.
You know what you should do? I got an idea. You should start a Facebook group called Republicans for Maura Keller.
Oh, boom! There you go. Okay.
Boom.
All right, we can.
Republicans.
That's a good start.
Yeah. And then, hey, look, you get one, the one gets another, the other gets the other, and next thing you know, boom, you got a group.
That would be that. I will take that under severe advisement because
all you got to do is go to Facebook, create a group. Your husband can do it. You hear that? Your husband can do it. Republicans for Maura Keller.
I need people, the farmers, to know that I'm listening to them. But I know nothing about farming. So I've joined the Farm Bureau. I joined the Cattle Association. So at least I can go to some of their meetings. But I went to this
there's
gentleman.
Your other group. Farmers for Maura Keller.
Ding. And what I'm trying to find out is, do we have the right laws in place to protect them? Because we see what our current administration is doing. We're repealing everything. Yep. We don't care about the environment. We're going to put more PFAS out there, so you want to make sure everybody stays healthy. You want to make sure the farmers, because They work so damn hard.
Hmm?
When you look from sun up to sundown, you know, when stuff goes sideways, the weather does what the weather does, but they are out there with those animals. They're out there for their crops.
Yep.
They are unsung, but and it's not like you wake up one day to say, I'm going to be a farmer. This is stuff either generational or they have such a passion for it that this is what they are supposed to do. And I want them to know they have somebody in this fight, because I want to be part of the agriculture committee in Congress.
Farmers for Maura Keller. Hey, and
So-
don't forget, waitresses for Maura Keller.
They're-
Look at all these Facebook groups you can start like that, right? Waitresses for Maura Keller would be huge.
and well, and as long as the people that own it don't silence it.
Well, it'll be your group, though. You know, you start. You do that.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm giving. You know what I'm doing? I'm giving you what the Obama campaign did way back in 2006 in developing its website, because I knew Chris Hughes. All right, so that's how they did it. The groups belonged to the Obama campaign. It was started by other people, but it belonged to the campaign.
That's interesting. Hey, I will put these groups together. You watch. Because everybody's important.
I can see
don't
that 3
want
million in the
anybody-
bank right now. I can see it. I have envisioned it. There it is.
This is good. I could use all the help. But again, we're grassroots. We knock on the door, we talk to the people, we shake hands. And one of the things in the military is my word is my bond. And my integrity is not for sale. Once you lose your integrity, once you lose your character, it is hard to get it back. Right. And that is something that is non-negotiable for me. So if I give you my word on something, I'm going to do my damnedest to make it happen.
Yeah. And remember, but you have to, cause a rising tide. You want to know why? Because a rising tide lifts Maura Keller. Right?
I like it. I like it. Boy, Zinni, I appreciate your help.
You got it. My pleasure. Hey, everybody, check out Maura Keller's website, maurakeller.com right here. Put this great Democrat into Congress representing Georgia's District 3. That's Fayette County. All right. Hey, Maura.
Yeah, I go all the way to.
All the way to.
Will do.
Wait. You go all the way.
I was just going to say the 15 counties. I was so.
No, it's 15.
How do I
counties.
say?
Yeah, 15 counties.
Because they gerrymandered 2 red districts, and they cut out some of my blue. But I got to say, even though they did this, we did move the needle 3 more points Democratic, and that hadn't happened here. And we brought out another 10,000 voters that we never had before. So to me, that was a tell, even though we lost. We just need to let people know that their voice matters, that their vote counts. Too many of them felt in the rural areas that they are forgotten, and that you only care about them when it's election time. So I need to make sure that they know that you are important all the time.
Yeah. Hey, the best Republican the Republican can vote for is a Democrat, Maura Keller. There you go.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Hey, don't move a muscle. Folks, we'll be back with more. That ends this conversation for now, but Maura Keller will be back. Just like James Bond. Thanks, Maura.
Thanks, Zinni.